Every man, no matter how strong he looks, reaches a moment in life where he quietly breaks, not physically, not publicly, but internally, in a place no one else can see. It happens after years of swallowing emotions, after pretending to be the rock everyone depends on, after being the strong, silent one who never asks for help because he was taught that needing support makes him weak. It happens after he gives love that isn't returned, after he carries responsibilities that were never his, after he sacrifices his mental health just to keep everyone else comfortable. He doesn't explode, he doesn't scream, he doesn't collapse on the floor. He breaks inside his own soul, alone, in silence, without witnesses. And in that silence, something inside him finally whispers the words he's been afraid to say his whole life. I choose me now. This is where everything changes. The collapse, the confrontation, the loneliness, the rebuild, and eventually, the rise. Let's go deeper. A man doesn't choose himself because he's selfish. He chooses himself because he's exhausted. This exhaustion isn't physical, it's spiritual, it's emotional. It's the tiredness that comes from being the reliable one for far too long. He notices patterns. He is always the one texting first, always the one remembering important dates, always the one checking if everyone's okay, always the one fixing things he didn't break. He becomes the problem solver, the emotional shock absorber, the unpaid therapist, the backbone everyone leans on, the man who never gets to fall apart. People don't ask how he's doing. They just assume he's fine, because he's a man, because he's strong, because he can handle it. So he stops expressing himself, stops complaining, stops expecting anything back. He convinces himself this is how life works. Then, a small moment, something tiny, almost insignificant, cracks the surface. A disrespect, a betrayal, a moment where someone takes him for granted again. And for the first time, he actually hears himself think, "Why am I living for people who don't live for me?" He looks at his life and realizes it was built around keeping others happy, not himself. This is the breaking point. Not the end, but the beginning of a transformation he never knew he needed. When a man finally chooses himself, the world around him begins to tremble. Not because he's doing something wrong, but because he's changing the role he was forced into. People start noticing the shift. He doesn't reply instantly. He doesn't say yes to everything. He doesn't offer emotional labor for free. He doesn't let people dump their problems on him anymore. Suddenly, he's distant. He's rude now. He's selfish. He's changed. They're not upset because he changed. They're upset because he stopped serving them. Partners who enjoyed his emotional stability feel threatened. Friends who used him as an emotional trash can get irritated. Family members who relied on him for strength start guilt-tripping him. Why? Because they didn't love him for who he is. They loved him for what he provided. This is the part men are never warned about. When you stop breaking yourself for others, they call you the villain. When you stop sacrificing your peace for their comfort, they say you don't care anymore. When you stop letting people walk all over you, you suddenly become too harsh. But this resistance is necessary. It's the universe clearing out the people who were only there because he was weak. This is the pushback. Uncomfortable, but essential. Choosing yourself comes with a price. Not anger, not consequences, but isolation. Not the kind where you sit alone in a room, but the emotional loneliness of realizing how few people actually cared about you without conditions. He begins withdrawing naturally. He distances himself from conversations that drain him. He stops entertaining people who use him. He cuts off relationships built on one-sided effort. He stops responding to emotional manipulation. He stops giving energy to people who only take. He starts spending more time alone. Not because he hates people, but because he finally experiences something rare: peace. At first, peace feels strange, almost scary, because a man who has lived in chaos for years mistakes calmness for emptiness. He may look in the mirror and ask, "Did I do the right thing? Why does solitude feel uncomfortable? Why do I miss people who never valued me?" This is the detox phase. He's not lonely, he's healing. This withdrawal teaches him a truth most men never learn. Solitude isn't a punishment, it's a reset. This is the longest, hardest, most painful chapter, and the most important. When a man chooses himself, he realizes something shocking. He never truly knew who he was. His identity was built on being dependable, avoiding conflict, being the strong one, carrying other people, earning love through effort, silencing his own needs, but not being himself. So he begins the reconstruction. He rewires his beliefs. He confronts childhood patterns. He stops clinging to people who drain him. He learns the weight of the word no. He sees how much of his identity was programmed by society, not chosen by him. This chapter is where a man rebuilds his self-worth, heals emotional wounds, learns emotional independence, reconnects with his passions, learns to rest without guilt, stops proving his value, stops chasing love, stops tolerating disrespect, stops accepting the bare minimum. This is where he becomes dangerous, not because he's aggressive, but because he is finally awake. A man who knows himself cannot be manipulated, cannot be controlled, cannot be guilt-tripped. He becomes a new version of himself, one that cannot be broken by the same things again. If you're a man watching this, listen closely. You don't need permission to choose yourself. You don't need validation to protect your peace. You don't need approval to put yourself first. The world benefits when you are broken, because a broken man is easy to use, but you benefit when you rise. And that rise begins with one decision: choose yourself. Every day, every time, not out of anger, not out of ego, but out of self-respect. Your future depends on it.